Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to Ramacrow. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from a caller who shall remain anonymous. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Hi, Lloyd. My name's you can use my story, whatever you need to do, if you would like to. I'm currently an active Jehovah's Witness. I was baptized in 1982 at the age of 17. I've had quite a bit of experience with being a witness. Not having any privileges really right now. I was a servant for a little bit. But the reason I called is just to tell you that you've been influential in my waking up. So I've always kind of had some doubts and some questions. My wife would always call me a borderline apostate, but I tend to think things through a lot and not just take everything at face value. So anyways, so what started me on what you like to say, a rabbit hole is researching 1975, being I lived through that era, and I remember it was a bigger deal than what they make it out to be now. When I heard Brother Morris say, "Oh, that was just something that some people in other countries, some brothers came up with," I knew it was more than that. So that got me listening to a lot of your videos. I listen to them while I'm working instead of watching them, and I have to do it in secret because my wife is very upset if she finds out that I'm listening to apostate material. But currently, ever since we started going back to door-to-door ministry, I can't bring myself to do it since we stopped in March of 2020. The main reason is because two of our three children are disfellowshipped. They're grown up and they have children of their own. And then our oldest boy just basically faded away. And so I just cannot wrap my mind around going out and telling others to worship a God that at Armageddon is going to murder my three children and my five grandchildren because none of them are being raised as Jehovah's Witnesses. So, and I explained that to my wife, and she said, well, you got to think that Jehovah's going to make everything all better, and in a paradise, we're all going to be happy. Jehovah guarantees it. And I said, well, we're not going to remember that we had children or grandchildren. No, she says, he'll take that all from our mind. And I said, well, then why do they have these videos where they show people in the paradise and they're talking about how things were during the end and at Armageddon? And what are we going to do? We're just going to magically forget that we ever had children or grandchildren and just go on with life? None of it seems realistic to me. And I know Jehovah never monkeyed with free will. That's why we're in this so-called mess from Adam and Eve, because they had free will even though they were perfect. So I don't think he's going to turn us into, robots or, give us a lobotomy where we can't remember the past. So that's the realization of the ministry. And it's so hard to sit through meetings now, and especially the midweek meeting when it's all about how to start studies and indoctrinate people, because I want nothing to do with that. Eventually, the elders will probably want to meet with me, and I can go two ways. I can either tell them what they want to hear, or I can be honest with them. And I'm afraid if I'm going to be honest, then they're going to probably, disfellowship me. And my parents are both in their 80s. They're Jehovah's Witnesses. My in-laws are Jehovah's Witnesses, been witnesses forever. All our friends, everybody, that our whole circle of friendship is all witnesses. So it would make it difficult if I went the honest route. My wife would make life a lot harder for her because we couldn't do anything with the friends that we've been doing things with for, we've been married for 35 years, and I don't want to put her through that. So just wondering, you seem like a very intelligent guy, what you think I should do, so that's why I called. If you wish to talk to me further, Stephen Lett was our circuit overseer, so I have some experience with him. Anyways, I could go on for a long time with lots of different stories about judicial committee meetings and everything, but my duration is up right about now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in with this message. My heart really goes out to you, as it does with so many messages like this. I mean, viewers who listen to these voicemails kind of week in, week out will be very familiar with your particular set of circumstances. It's one, unfortunately, that we hear repeatedly, where it all boils down to the question of to fade or not to fade. How do I calibrate my life so that I'm not having to pander to the ideologies of a grotesque cult that I no longer believe in? How do I keep everything that's important to me and, do as little damage to my family relationships as possible while living honestly? And it's a really, really difficult dilemma to grapple with. I know for some listening, it's just straightforward. Oh, you should go out in a blaze of glory. You should tell the elders what's what and let the chips fall where they may. But I take a more nuanced approach. I think that we're all different. All of our relationships are different. Our mental health is very, very important. And we need to do things at a pace and at a, with timing that suits us. And that's all I can really say, I suppose, in your particular situation. You are best placed to know what is at stake. You mentioned that your parents are in their 80s. I think that, it sounds very morbid to say this, but that would suggest to me that at least your predicament isn't going to go on forever. With greatest respect to your parents, they're not going to be around for a great deal longer, are they? If we're just going to talk bluntly. So, at least on that side of things, if you were to be disfellowshipped, you'd be in good company because you have 2 disfellowshipped children and you have an older boy who, as you say, is faded. So it's not like if you were to kind of face the worst case scenario, you would be completely estranged from everyone that you care about. It's just that, as you say, you've been married for 35 years. Your marriage is clearly important to you, as it should be. And you also have consideration and sensitivity for your parents who are in their 80s. I've said in many videos that we shouldn't be living our lives for other people, especially for the older generation. But in your particular set of circumstances, you might feel, you know what, I can walk the walk and talk the talk just a little bit longer just to send them off happy, Maybe that might be the way you feel. Or it might be that after giving this plenty of thought and introspection, you think, you know what, regardless of how old my parents are, I need to be me. I need to live authentically. I cannot live a lie for however long, even if it's just for a few days. Life is too short. I want to be able to speak my mind. I want to be able to say what I know to be true and not be ashamed of it. So I'm going to be honest with the elders and let the inevitable happen. Only you can make that decision. I can't make it for you. I wouldn't want to make it for you because let's say you did ask me, which you're not. Let's say you did ask me to make this decision. I would then be responsible for the consequences, and there will be consequences, however you do this. If you do decide to keep quiet, if you do decide to continue to fade, that's going to eat away at you. That's going to have repercussions on your mental health. On the other hand, if you decide to go crashing out and disassociate or get disfellowshipped for apostasy, that too will have repercussions on your mental health due to the shunning. It's a terrible, terrible dilemma that you should not have to face. I mean, this isn't normal. This is not a healthy, normal set of circumstances, but that's the nature of the cult we're dealing with. So I do have utmost sympathy for you. Incidentally, we bleeped out your name. You very kindly and generously gave us your name when you left the voicemail. But since you specifically said that you are an active Jehovah's Witness, and you have quite a lot on the line depending on how much your elders find out about how you feel. I mean, it could be that the name that you gave was a pseudonym, but just to play it safe, I've had Tibor bleep out the name. It's not like you were swearing at me right out of the gate on the message. So we've just taken that precaution on your behalf. But I will say you sound like a really sweet guy. It sounds like, as you mentioned, you have many stories to tell. And maybe at some point in the future, we can get you on the channel and you can tell us more. I'm especially interested in learning more about 1975 because although I am a bit of a dinosaur, now in my 40s, I'm not quite old enough to remember 1975 because I was born in 1979. So I'm always interested in hearing more about that particular aspect of Jehovah's Witness history. But thank you so much for calling in. I hope some or all of what I've said is helpful for you. Don't forget that if you'd like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on this channel. But that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching.